OTB AM.
With Aviva, Ireland's largest insurer, celebrating 10 years of iconic sporting moments at the Aviva Stadium.
Yeah, very good morning to you. If you've just joined us, you're welcome along. You've missed a great interview with Ugo Monye, Keith Wood and Joe Malloy from last night. You can get that wherever you get your podcast, Monday Night Rugby. You can subscribe to the rugby stream on the OTB Podcast Network. You'll get that on Spotify. You'll get it on Pocket Cast. The best place for us to get it is actually on the Off The Ball website, offtheball.com, or indeed the Go Loud app, which has all the audio you'd ever need. Loads of good stuff up there. Dr. Una May talking about Sport Ireland's decision not to appeal the James Cronin ruling, a Paul Warwick interview, Heineken Cup final memories with Mike Ross and Alan Quinlan, and episode 2 of State of the Union, which was Keith Wood and Paul Vaughan. As he said there, Andrew Mertens and Michael Cheika are the guests on this week as we go down under to see exactly what the state of Antipodean rugby is. Eoin Sheahan, good morning to you again. How are you?
Very well now.
Are you feeling a little bit bereft when something as seismic as The Last Dance rolls to a close? It's like, oh, wow, that was amazing, but what am I going to do now?
Yeah, I thought you meant bereft in general, in life in general. But yeah, after recording our Off the Bull podcast yesterday, it's hard not to feel that way. Definitely, it's been a big part of our lives for the last 5 weeks or so. We've kind of got used to the summery Monday evenings, sitting down to record with the lads. So we'll do one more pod next week and stuff like that. But yeah, I definitely think that anybody who's been kind of making it an appointment to watch over the last couple of weeks will feel a little bit bereft for sure. Like it was 2 hours of every week. Like that's a big investment, even in a pandemic world. Like in the year 2020, 2 hours every week is a huge investment into anybody's life, and that's what people did with Michael Jordan.
The thing about it was, and for all the criticism of the documentary, we've been through that, what they also managed to do was kind of lift the lid a little bit on the supporting cast, and some of them were particularly interesting. Steve Kerr was the focus this week. Steve Kerr is the coach of the Warriors team, who have transformed basketball in their own way and had not quite the dynasty maybe that people thought they were going to go on and become over the last couple of years, but certainly one of the most interesting basketball stories. And is it fair to say they've changed the game?
Yeah, I would say so. Like, I think you can look at a number of teams recently. I think Houston Rockets have been up there in terms of having a huge impact on changing the game, which is a shooters league. Everybody shoots the three. Like, I was even looking at great video recently breaking down Michael Jordan's field goal attempts, and he just wasn't a shooter, or he certainly didn't shoot from outside the 3-point line whatsoever, which was viewed upon as a more impressive thing, given he obviously has to go to the rim a lot more to get his incredible points tallies, being the scoring leader in the NBA in a huge amount of the seasons that he played. Whereas now, a lot of people are racking up massive tallies by just shooting the three successfully. So they've been part of that. Like, I mean, having Steph Curry as one of the best shooters ever played a game, having Klay Thompson, another unbelievable shooter in your team, helps to that end. And Steve Kerr has been a huge part of it. But he's always come across to me as just such an impressive man, even though it is so easy to hate the Warriors, especially after they signed Kevin Durant and made themselves clearly a dynastic team that should have dominated the league for a lot longer, as you say. It was impossible to not love Steve Kerr, whether it's when he's speaking out on social issues or whether it's just him talking in interviews and giving a little bit of an insight into his own basketball career. I genuinely think he is the nicest guy in world sport, and that's not hyperbole. I cannot think of anybody who I've never met that I like as much as Steve Kerr, to be quite honest. And he comes across so well in these last two episodes of The Last Dance. Episode 9 is, there's a 15-minute backstory on Steve Kerr. Talks about his father getting killed in the Lebanon. He was over there as a professor in Beirut. And they introduced that as a sort of commonality between himself and Michael Jordan, that they obviously both lost their fathers way too young in their lives, but it was not something that they ever spoke about. Instead, the commonality between Steve Kerr and Michael Jordan was that they would both, in very different ways, be competitive beasts. Michael Jordan realised he was the best in the world and used that to drive himself and his teammates onto the next level. Steve Kerr had to drive himself onto the next level just to exist on the same court as Michael Jordan, to get his 5 shots a game. And come the end of his career, it ended up with a couple of big moments for him, where Michael Jordan would trust Steve Kerr to be the guy that would have the ball in his hands when a shot is required to win a big playoffs game. And it just details the level of work that was required for that, not being unbelievably talented, not being unbelievably big in comparison to other NBA players. He is 6'3", so to us, he is obviously a phenomenal athlete, but relative to Michael Jordan, he is not, and he didn't have as much talent as him. And it's interesting, the previous week, we see everything about how Michael Jordan drove himself and his teammates on to be the very best by being not the nicest man in the world. Steve Kerr, it was a nice guy who didn't finish last.
Yeah, so it turns out you don't need to be a bully to be an absolutely brilliant coach and leader of men. He's doing a really interesting podcast at the moment with Pete Carroll, which it's the Ringer NFL podcast, bizarrely. It's on that stream. You can get that on the Go Loud app if you want. And it's just really interesting to hear two of the world's great coaches talk to each other honestly and bring guests in whose brains they've picked at various stages over the while. So if you want more Steve Kerr goodness, it's available for you right there. Just very briefly, one of the things that I've seen a lot of people talking about is their desire to take up new sports. So people who live within a 5k radius of, say, for example, a golf club are out there at the moment. We've seen some very high-profile golfers return. The Maguire twins are on the back of one of the newspapers today, but just too late for publication, it seems. Castlebar Golf Club put up their most famous son, and you're like, who is this guy? Who is the guy with the beard, Eoin? Who is the man?
I think that is the former leader of our great country, Mr. Enda Kenny, looking like the sort of guy who, when he stepped outside his front door, had to shield his eyes from the sunlight.
That is a magnificent beard.
It's an unbelievable beard. It's an unbelievable head of hair. And the barbers in Castlebar are licking their lips at the possibility of getting that business into their door pretty soon. Or
else this is it now. This is the new normal. That's what Enda Kenny's going to look like for the rest of his life. Grizzly Adams, like, growing old disgracefully, yeah, this is what I look like. Come at me.
I'm a castaway now, is how Enda Kenny will describe himself to his mates when he goes down to the pub. I like it. I'd like to see a former suited and booted, very clean-shaven person letting themselves go in their later years. And there's nothing wrong with a bit of a shabby beard and a bit of a mop of a head. We were all, I was going to say we've all been there, Enda, but we are all there. We are all there right now with you, urging you on. You can be our leader of the shabby people of Ireland.
Were you clean shaven for a day last week? Is that what happened?
No, I haven't been clean shaven in a while. It's clearly, obviously, when I take a little bit off the beard, it looks like I'm clean shaven. So thank you for complimenting me on the fullness of my facial hair, Ger.
Okay, fair enough. That was awkward. Let's move on. Sheahan, good morning to you. How are you?
Morning, lads. A bit empty this morning after The Last Dance ending. I feel like I've lost a part of my life that I had for the last 5-6 weeks. It's quite a sad morning.
This was a big family event for you, I understand.
Yeah, it was a big family event. We finished episodes 7 and 8 last week, my dad and I, and immediately my mum was sitting in the kitchen and she said, "What are you talking about?" And we told her about The Last Dance. And we told her that the last 2 episodes were this week, so yesterday. She proceeded to watch the entire series, but she watched 5 episodes yesterday. So she watched half the series yesterday. Absolutely loved it. Wouldn't be into sport massively, into basketball massively at all. Wouldn't have known the story of MJ. But absolutely annihilated 5 episodes in a row yesterday. And I mean 5 episodes one after the other. She didn't take a break. So it showed the addictiveness of it. And look, I kind of felt that as well. Once you think 2 episodes and almost 2 hours of watching every week is enough, but at the end of it all, you're left feeling a little bit empty and wanting more, I guess.
I wonder if there will be more. I wonder if there is, now, if the Jordan book industry is huge. The first one comes out and then everybody's like, oh, hang on, there's another aspect to this. Or is this the end of the Michael Jordan documentaries? Does nobody ever try and make one because these 10 episodes exist?
Yeah, it's been done. I think it's been done. It's hard to top this, and the reaction on Twitter is, this is one of the greatest sports documentaries I have ever seen. So if you try MJ, you're going to have that bar immediately compared to it. I mean, there's, not to give any spoilers, but there's so many good parts in those last 2 episodes. Owen's mentioned Steve Kerr. What a likeable guy. There's emotion. One of my favorite parts was they were kind of talking about how MJ built up this reputation without the use of social media. So he had no Twitter. He couldn't post videos every day promoting himself, but yet he was this massive iconic figure, not only in Chicago or America, but in the world. Yeah. And even when, I think it's Leonardo DiCaprio comes to him after the 98 NBA Finals win, and MJ is only showing a passing interest in Leonardo DiCaprio. This show is like, oh yeah, thanks, cheers, Leo. And now I'm going to move on and talk to someone else.
He was all over.
Doesn't care, but
he was all over.
Care.
He was all over Seinfeld. He loved Seinfeld. He loved that kind of. So I don't know. Maybe by that stage, I mean, bear in mind this is '98. Leonardo DiCaprio is like a rising star, but not quite the Leonardo DiCaprio of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, where it's
this is the year after Titanic. Wasn't Titanic 97? Surely at this moment he's riding on the crest of a wave, but like extraordinary. I mean, he was the most famous person in the world at that particular moment in time, you guess.
I think Jordan was just focused on getting onto beer. Like, thank you, Leo. But like the Seinfeld thing was pre-game. He was chilled out. Leo caught him in the middle of celebrating a championship win. And Leo, I've never seen the man awkward, but he's unbelievably awkward in that confrontation with Jordan. He's like, "Hey, some real iconic moments out there, Michael." And
poetic,
Jordan's
I think he used.
Right,
that was poetic, man. It's like, oh, come on, Leo. You could have come up with something better than that. But like, there was even the scene of Michael on the bus as well, listening to music. Was it after the match? Oh no, it was on the way to Utah, I think, for one of the games. But he's listening to music. There's already a Twitter profile of what was Michael listening to, and it's an 11-second clip of Michael listening to a number of songs. So Vanessa Carlton, 1,000 Miles, I think, was my favorite one so far. So give that Twitter account a follow if you can. There are already a lot of suggestions as to what exactly Mike. I know he says in the thing what he was listening to, but we all like to make up our own suggestions as to what he was listening to. And Twitter has done it for us. The
power of the internet. 0879 180 180 if anybody wants to WhatsApp us this morning with any of your comments or views on anything that we're covering. It is 15 minutes past 8. Let's get into the sports news. We're starting with a potential trophy presentation.
Indeed, there could still be a formal trophy presentation if Liverpool secure the Premier League title, lads. The clubs are set to resume training in small groups today. That's under phase 1 of the league's Project Restart. Strict medical protocols will remain in place. No contact will be allowed, of course. Surprise inspections, GPS tracking and video analysis are methods that could be used to ensure clubs adhere to new safety guidance. Liverpool, of course, need just 2 more wins if and when the Premier League resumes to seal a first title for them in 30 years. Meanwhile, Premier League medical practitioners have revealed they feel under pressure to conform. Almost half of those surveyed don't feel they've been adequately consulted about a return to play. Celtic have been crowned Scottish Premiership champions for the 9th season in a row. That's after the campaign was ended on a point per game calculation. At a meeting yesterday, the top flight clubs reached a unanimous decision. The campaign could not be restarted due to the coronavirus. That decision also means Hearts have been relegated to the Scottish Championship. They are considering legal action and say they would like to see a restructured league pyramid expanding the top flight. Speaking of Celtic, loads of great stuff on the offtheball.com website this morning, including Paddy Bonner, former Celtic and Republic of Ireland keeper, discussing that famous penalty shootout against Romania in 1990 and how nervous Daniel Timofey looked when he walked up to take that infamous penalty that Bonner saved now, making us all delighted, I guess. But some really great insights on how he worked with Jerry Payton as a goalkeeping coach and how he played in a Scottish Cup final with Celtic just before the World Cup and had conceded 9 penalties. They lost 9-8, and how he'd improved his standing before that World Cup in terms of penalties. The Bundesliga, of course, continued last night, lads. Kai Havertz didn't waste time in reminding people why he's one of Europe's hottest young properties. The 20-year-old scored twice for Bayer Leverkusen. That was in their 4-1 win at Werder Bremen to move them to within a point of the top 4 and move Bremen closer towards relegation from the Bundesliga for the first time in 37 years. To rugby, Robin Copeland says he's fulfilling an ambition by playing in France. The 32-year-old has left Connacht, signing a 3-year deal with French second-tier side Charente. Meanwhile, in cricket, their governing body has recommended a change of rules to ban the use of saliva to shine the ball. The ICC Cricket Committee wants the change implemented to protect players from COVID-19. Traditionally, saliva has been used to help smooth one side of the ball to help it swing. Formula 1 news now. Fernando Alonso is ready to return to Formula 1 in 2021, according to his main advisor. It's understood Spain's 2-time world champion has had talks with Renault about a possible comeback, but the team has not made a final decision. Alonso left F1 at the end of 2018 and does plan to race at the Indianapolis 500 when that does manage to take place. Last week it was announced that Germany's Sebastian Vettel was leaving Ferrari at the end of the season to be replaced by Alonso's compatriot Carlos Sainz. Daniel Ricciardo leaving Renault to take up Sainz's place at McLaren. And finally, lads, in France there's racing today at Chantilly, with first off at 5 to 10.
Shane, good stuff. Thanks very much for that. That is Shane Hanna with us there this morning at 17 minutes past 8. Here's what's coming up on the show for you today. Very busy programme for you. As Eoin was talking about, the very last episode of The Last Dance aired, which means that we'll bring you the second last Off the Ball that's coming your way from 9 o'clock. Sports pages in just a moment. And Ciarán Kelly is our top 8 Aviva moments. I think a stunning victory for him yesterday. A world record 4 penalties saved in a row. He's going to tell us the story of that. We're going to join him from the Middle East, where he's coaching at the moment, to find out how lockdown is going there for him, but also to look back on a very, very special night for him as well. And the Last Dance review off the ball coming your way at 9:05. Now let's get into the papers.
OTB AM.
And we are going to start with offtheball.com as we always do this morning. And here's what's on the website for you. Ugo Monye and Bloodgate, a stain that will forever be there. Interesting to get the insider's perspective of Bloodgate from the Quinn side. We've obviously heard a good bit about it down through the years from Leinster's side. But again, a sliding doors moment for Irish rugby and for Leinster rugby, because if they'd lost that game, then they wouldn't have obviously won the Champions Cup that year, and who knows what would have happened. Sport Ireland on Cronin doping ban, unlikely to get a significant increase. That was Una May speaking last night. Kissing his teammate was an innocent mistake. The Bundesliga is back. Many will seek to challenge us, but we deserve it. It's Neil Lennon talking about the 9 in a row. And as Shane said, there are loads of great stuff from Packy Bonner. When he walked up, you could see the nerves, Packy Bonner, about facing Daniel Tomofte.
I'm buying the accidentally kissing thing, by the way.
Yeah, well, it's not on purpose. I mean, it's not.
And I think that even on Saturday when you see Haaland's celebration, I'm like, well, this is obviously a bit where Haaland told his teammates to back off because he's doing his dance thing, which we have seen in the past. But actually what it is people respecting social distancing by not giving him a hug. So I think we were all getting conditioned to it. And especially if you're one of the players who's got that adrenaline rush, it's extra hard for you to abide by those rules. The Irish Independent this morning. How
conditioned are people getting? Were you out and about yesterday? Were you comfortable with the fact that everybody knew what they were supposed to be doing?
I think so, yeah. I think social distancing is just a reality now. I think that have a lot of people been in phase 1 mode for a little while already? Not like, I mean, what is phase 1 mode really? Like there's no sort of sense.
Let's go. Party. That's what I think. That's what everybody... This is Ireland. Everybody's going to go buck mental.
Yeah. The ability to meet people outside, like the house party clause hasn't come into the phase just yet. I think that's phase 3, is it? But maybe July 20th before that becomes something that is acceptable to do. At that point, then I'd expect Ireland to go buck mental once the house party. They haven't called it as such, funnily enough, the medical professionals, but they should do the house party clause.
Actual real house party, not virtual house party.
Yes, exactly. That's what I mean. That's when things change. Of course, people have been flouting those rules. Like a friend of mine actually saw across their apartment the other day a group of people out on the balcony, clearly having a house party. If you're having a house party, stay away from the balcony, is what I would say. Or if you're going out for a cigarette, take turns in twos, so it makes it look like it's just residents living in the place, and turn the music down.
Wow! Grandpa Simpson angry at the cloud there. Eoin. This is a bit rich coming from you, who, like, as soon as that July 20th thing happens, we're not going to see you for about 3 weeks because you'll just be in one long continuous house party. I mean, you're looking forward to one of the best summers of your life, ultimately.
Absolutely. I am. I've got everything planned out, and everybody is invited. The Irish Independent this morning leads with the picture there of the Maguire twins, as you mentioned already, Ger. Golf family back on the tee. Maguire twins get back into full swing. Green light for first of pools, 3 steps to title heaven. Meanwhile, this is about the possibility that the Premier League will allow Liverpool to go and have a trophy presentation. But Didi Hamann has been on the record here, insisting numbers must be right or June 12th resumption will be delayed. Then the other story here on the back of the Irish Independent is that Sexton admits it's hard to stay motivated in lockdown, like all of his rugby comrades, isolating alone away from the players at the moment. At least they're with their family, and with the season being suspended, you think you're in good shape, and then all of a sudden it gets suspended again and again and again. So he's finding it tough at the moment, as I'd imagine a lot of the rugby players are.
The Irish Examiner is first for me here this morning. Yeah. So Federation warns many sports won't return without funding. That was the statement issued yesterday by the Federation of Irish Sports, and they're concerned about the money that's required to run the NGBs. Golf clubs report high compliance upon return. Drizzle failed to dampen spirits as Ballyliffin eyes staycationers. And tennis courts new members as clubs reopen for business after lockdown. Cork players not opposed to careers down under, says agent. So perhaps some young GAA players are looking at Australia as an option, given that It's going to be very interesting to see how the economy recovers and how quickly the economy recovers in the aftermath of this. So, was it Ryan McBenamin who was in the papers yesterday talking about the fear of emigration being very serious from a GAA perspective? Ordinarily, in a situation like this, you would say, yeah, immigration is going to be a huge issue, but is it going to be such a big issue if countries aren't taking people in, if there are no jobs there either? Again, I suppose recovery might be at different paces in different places around the world.
The back page of the London Times this morning leads with the story about Callum Hudson-Odoi. Hudson-Odoi arrested after claim of rape. He was arrested on suspicion of rape in the early hours of Sunday morning after a female guest at his West London home was taken to hospital. The other stories here on the back of the London Times this morning: cricket bans use of saliva, as you've mentioned, and league to spy on training. Premier League inspectors will be sent out to make sure that clubs are not cheating with the amount of training done by their players or breaching social distancing guidelines before the season resumes.
The Irish Times this morning leading with that story we covered yesterday. Sheahan, the Kerryman, headed for Georgia Tech. This is the story of David Sheahan, who was a brilliant guest on the programme yesterday. You should check out the video of that. We'll repost it as well for you. Celtic's title triumph should not be diminished. We'll play some video from Guido in a couple of minutes' time celebrating Celtic's title win. 13 points clear with one game played more than Rangers, but I think everybody accepted that Celtic were going to win that title. And crowdless games could help bring some changes for the better about how we're going to be able to hear what the influence that certain players have over the referees, for example. Now would be a good time to get back the old tapes of what exactly Richie McCaw would be saying to a referee during a game, wouldn't it?
As in to learn from the best?
Well, just to hear exactly how that went, you know? That would have been interesting.
Was he hourly influencing the referee, or was it just because he is Richie McCaw and therefore you don't give a penalty against Richie McCaw?
I'd say there was a good bit of chat. And educating the referee about what was happening, you know?
Of course.
Keeping them informed.
When is his refereeing career actually starting? It's the only natural pathway for him at this point, isn't it? Given how well he dictated the rules of the games being implemented in the games in which he played, it's only fair and right that he dons the green jersey of the referee at some point soon. I'd be keen to know when that's kicking off for him.
I'd say he's retired. I know, he retired from everything at the same time. He was one of the first people to be able to simultaneously referee and play. It's like he's never going to be able to match that again.
The omnipresent Richie McCaw. The back page of the Mirror this morning is "Here we go." Premier League boss insists Bundesliga's successful return to action has fired belief that season in England will now be completed. This is Richard Masters, who's been speaking again yesterday. Klopp will cop trophy. Liverpool will get a special presentation when they finally claim their crown. And Neil Lennon there, pictured with the Scottish Premiership title, 9 in a row for Celtic. So now next year, potentially looking to become the first club in Scottish football history to do a 10 in a row. It's kind of mad that there has been 2 9 in a rows already done in Scottish football.
Yeah, it's a very competitive league up there, Eoin. What are you talking about? What issues are you drawing from? What are you saying? The Star this morning, let's make it 10. That's Neil Lennon, pictured with the trophy, as you just said. Lennon eyeing 10. Byrne knows return risks. This is the FAI's Chief Medical Officer talking about their pathway to return. And golf's great opportunity. That's the 3 Maguires, the 2 girls and their brother Audrin playing golf yesterday. So is there one here? Yeah, league look to honour Klopp King. So they'll have to give them the trophy at some point, right?
The Irish Daily Mail this morning is "I want more." Lennon's joy after Celtic claim crown. UEFA wait to resolve Euros issue meanwhile. So the UEFA chiefs have put back the next executive committee meeting by 3 weeks until June 17th. So this is going to iron out issues with the 12 host cities for the deferred Euro 2020 final. So this is going to be a pivotal 3 weeks or so for Ireland, whether or not we're going to have the same amount of games or potentially more games next summer. And Blues is accused of rape there as well. That's the back page of the Irish Daily Mail.
Spies and lows is the back page of The Sun this morning. Stars back training, spies, Prem snoops to enforce rules. Was it somebody from Donegal up the trees in Kerry? Is that the story?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can get I'm sure that person who was up the tree in Killarney will be now safely employed by the Premier League to be one of the snoops. Marcelo Bielsa, I would have thought, could be another person you could do. It will be interesting when you're training on the training pitch, and you're like, what is that thing moving in the corner? And there's like a bush with feet underneath it, kind of running away from you. That's how you know that you've been watched by these COVID inspectors.
And count up to 10. That's the story there. The lows. No fans for 1 year warning, and travel rules may KO Euro ties. So we might have no European football, and we might have no fans at games for a year. So it's going to be very interesting to see exactly what happens. But football is going to be back in less than a month today. That'd be all right. We'd all welcome that, wouldn't we?
I like, it's a game changer, isn't it? If the Premier League comes back, that's a huge slice of sporting normality right back into your life, I would have thought. So absolutely. Back page of the Herald is call to rescue sport. O'Connor, we need support now from government. This is Mary O'Connor, the CEO of the Federation of Irish Sport, talking about the organisations that her umbrella organisation represents, 81 NGBs, 29 local sports partnerships, looking for a resilience fund to help clubs and organisations that may not survive the financial impact of COVID-19. And Liverpool set to get trophy presentation, and also Blue Days in our new series in the Herald's Dublin Stars of the Past pick their favourite game.
And the Guardian, their back page there is a picture of two kids with 9 league champions in a row, 2012 to 2020. A year without crowds, Premier League restart in years, but fans face lengthy absence, and spit polish ban opens door for bowlers' pores. What? No more boiled sweets, but sweat is fine. That's it. Wow. The Cricket Committee, which is chaired by the former India spin bowler Anil Kumble, has decided to recommend that the use of saliva to polish a cricket ball should be prohibited for the foreseeable future. By contrast to medical advice, it's highly unlikely coronavirus can be transmitted through sweat, and the committee saw no need to prohibit the use of sweat to polish the balls. Sweaty balls, Eoin. It's the future of cricket is sweaty balls. Don't spit on your balls. Make them be sweaty, and you can swing away or spin, whichever you want. You might be a swinger, you could be a spinner. It's up to you.
First they took our sport, then they took our freedom. Now they've taken my boiled sweets. It's a dark, dark day for saliva users in the world. The Irish News this morning, 9 in a row for Celts. Lennon says boys' sides now on a perfect 10, and Hearts are pondering legal action over their relegation.
And do I have one last one for you? I do have the Telegraph. Should have had this one prepared earlier, Eoin. Actually, yeah, there it is, sorry. Telegraph for you this morning. Players face 14-day isolation in hotels. Celtic celebrate title as Hearts fight relegation, and Championship plans tea time kickoffs to finish season. So the English Football League plans to make the remainder of the Championship a festival of football, with midweek matches broadcast at tea times and in evenings. This is a good idea, which I think is beginning to gain traction. Saturday afternoon is kind of pointless, right? We actually can go out and do stuff on a Saturday afternoon, put the games on midweek, have a 5 o'clock, a 7 o'clock and a 9 o'clock kickoff. And no?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Sorry, I just thought you were finishing a point there. Like, absolutely, yes, we would do this. And I think if you're looking at the, say, British television schedule on an overall point of view, you might say to yourself, well, we've actually got a lot of Premier League games taking up these spots of like Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night. You can have football every single night. There's definitely scope now to do, I don't know, a 5:30 Saturday night show where you have 8 fixtures all going off concurrently, and we finally have this English domestic football red zone. Like, we've had it for the Champions League in the past, and it is brilliant. It absolutely works. And I think for a division like the Championship, could they potentially even do it for a lower division? Who knows? It would be sensational television. But absolutely, you're right. Like, why were we so... We don't need to cling to early kickoffs anymore. People don't need to go about their day after watching the match. They can go about their day beforehand because they don't need to be at the stadium.
That's the thing. It's fans no longer need to be there, so no big deal. Let's just fix this now and away we go.
Oh yeah, like there's even just on scheduling, there's so many opportunities here as well. Like, are we disappointed by the Bundesliga for not trying out something insane? Like, there was nothing. It was just football without fans. The only thing missing was fans. They didn't try anything new out at the weekend.
It was very, we have a situation that we need to solve. Let's solve that situation. And look,
very German.
I understand how other matters might have taken precedence when it came to coming up with plans. I understand that. And maybe next week or the week after, or maybe the start of next season is when we'll actually begin to see the German creativity, the Vorsprung durch technique, and that'll be fine. I don't mind if that's the case, right?
Yeah, I think I'd like to see a bit of innovation. Like try something out. Like it is, I guess you had a bit of music played in the stadium, but that's played anyway, I'd imagine, in Dortmund, for example. So yeah, a bit more innovation, and like by the sounds of things, it could be something that the Premier League are actually going to look into, because the television money costs so much, and it might just be a little bit more insight, a few more interviews, and a bit more of a peek behind the scenes. But I'm all on board for that.
Yeah, okay. One thing that we did want to show you was the celebrations in Gilroy last night. This was from Kevin Cassidy's Twitter account. You spotted this, Eoin. It was remarkable scenes as you begin to really understand exactly what Celtic means to the people of Donegal.
Yeah, this is it's like Gilroy have just won a championship. Really.
You could compare and contrast this with what happened last year when they went on their run. You can hear there, people were pretty happy about it.
That's extraordinary for just for a community to be that rallied around Celtic actually winning a championship without actually kicking a ball to win it is unreal. That's where in Ireland will we see this sort of parade when Liverpool win the Premier League is what I want to know.
I don't think you will. I think that there's actually I'd say so we Packie Bonner on obviously on Sunday for a feature-length interview, and it's worth digging out. But just kind of the importance of Donegal to Celtic and it being their football team isn't something that I think the rest of the country fully understands until you see scenes like this, and you're like, well, that's not nothing. That's a real thing there.
Yeah, it's hugely significant. In fairness, it's not their club overseas or in Scotland or whatever. It does feel like a part of their community there. And look at that, like that's insane. That's incredible. That's not scenes you'd see too often, even if a club up the road happened to win something. So for Celtic to win the Premiership title in Scotland, and for people in Donegal to be reacting like that, tells you all you need to know about the relationship between the two places.
It also helps that it's post-lockdown and everybody's in the car and they're like, right, come on, let's go. What's that noise? I don't care, let's go. We're celebrating. Yeah. What are we celebrating? The end of lockdown? Not really.
It didn't look like a great day up there yesterday. That's the only thing. You kind of have an itch to get out to somewhere rural at these points and go isolate up there. But clearly we're getting the good weather in Dublin, and we're not saving it for those up above in Donegal.
That was the wild Atlantic way, truly, absolutely properly as well. All right, if you want to get in touch with us here, 087 9 180 180 is the number.